let's talk about the specific running backs that we are targeting and avoiding. And we will start with the running backs in that RB2 average draft position. So the 13 to 24 range. Jake, who are you targeting in this range?
Yeah, there's a lot in this range that I really love, but if I had to take one, it's funny that Sean just mentioned him, and he said as RB3. I'll take him as my RB2. I love Mike Davis, mostly because I know a lot of people are questioning whether or not he can be the NFL version of a bell cow and the fact that 20 plus touches per game. And I understand that because some people said, oh, he wore down in some games, but there was plenty of opportunities where you saw him perform still well towards the end of the season. I think that kind of wore down, quote unquote, situation is a little overblown. But the biggest reason why is because if you look at that backfield, who else is touching that ball? Yeah, we could talk about Kadri Olsen, all the no, look, it's Mike Davis. And Mike Davis, the other thing he proved last year is not only just stepping in for Christian McCaffrey, but it's the passing game. He's good in the passing game, both as a blocker and a receiver, which if we expect the Falcons defense to be junk, there's not an argument you can make for the Falcons offense that doesn't involve Mike Davis still being there. If they're doing well and running ball offensively well and everything like that, then it's Mike Davis. If they're having to pass, Mike Davis is still going to be involved. So I'm looking at him and I say 300 touches is well within his reach. If you told me 260 is a floor with 300 likely, say absolutely. Again, there's a lot of names I like in this group, but for the fact that he's the bottom of this group on top of it, like I'm a J.K. Dobbins guy, but you're going to tell me J.K. Dobbins at 25 overall RB15 versus Mike Davis is 24 and 54 overall. I'm going to wait for Mike Davis. So I would love to get him as my RB3, and I have in a lot of places, Sean. I just took him in a draft over this weekend. I got him as my RB3 in the fifth or sixth round. But I'll even take him as my RB2 if, I got a wide receiver or two early in the first 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins is a guy that I feel like you never feel fully comfortable taking him. There's always like some disclaimer, but I actually think he'll probably be fine. Just a talented guy on a run heavy team that's inheriting the lead backfield. But I do like Mike Davis. Every time I, go to my projections, this guy's always higher than I think he's going to be because as you mentioned, there's just not really a lot behind him in that backfield. Even if Allison it becomes an RB2 and gets, what is he going to get? Like 4 or 5 carries a game. Like it's
all right.
There's going to be work to be had. And Arthur Smith, pretty good offensive mind. So even though they lost Julio, should still be able to do some things. Sean, who are you targeting in this RB 13 to 24 range, starting with guys like Mixon, CEH, Dobbins, Jacobs, Montgomery, Swift, and then Robinson and Davis sneak in at the end?
So this is the 3rd straight season where Chris Carson is my favorite low-end RB2 target. I mean, I feel like I say this every year. I'm projecting him as a high-end RB2 this season. I think he'll benefit from offensive coordinator Shane Waldron's up-tempo offense. I love where this offense is going. He's guaranteed touches in both the running and passing game. Like, you don't have to worry about game script when it comes to him. And, his only downside really is he tends to miss a game or two every year because of his violent running style. But when he was healthy last year, he averaged 15.7 points per game, which ranked 11th among running backs who played 10 or more games. Like, he's going to give you production when he's on the field. He's one of the most reliable guys you can draft. And he typically goes at the end of this running back 2 tier. So once again, I'll be loading up on Chris Carson. And then again, I just have to throw it out there, Kareem Hunt. Obviously he's limited due to Nick Chubb's presence, but even if Nick Chubb were to be healthy for all 17 games, I think Kareem Hunt will return value ADP. But he also has that massive upside in the event that Nick Chubb does miss time. I mean, he's a top 5 running back whenever Nick Chubb is out of the lineup. So I just love having that sort of high floor ceiling combo of Kareem Hunt. Again, as my running back 3, I don't want to be drafting him as like, my RB2 and leaning on him, but as like an RB3, I mean, he just offers massive upside that I just can't pass up.
Yeah, and it's tough going after you guys because those are my targets. I mean, Mike Davis and Chris Carson, those are the 2 guys that really stand out to me. Just well-rounded players. Chris Carson has been a top 20 PPR back 3 years in a row. He's a guy that while he can give you, 20 plus carries, he can give you, 4 or 5 catches in a game, but usually he'll be in the mid teens in carries, around 13, 14, and he'll get a couple catches. But in that offense with Russell Wilson going up and down the field, it's going to be a very concentrated offense. It's going to be Metcalf, it's going to be Lockett, and it's going to be Chris Carson. And with a quarterback like Russell Wilson, that's just a high floor situation with a high ceiling in any given week. Again, 3 straight top 20 finishes in PPR. And then Mike Davis, it's just a math game. I mean, the Falcons got rid of essentially their they had a trio of backs last year that weren't cutting it. You had Todd Gurley, you had Ito Smith, and you had Brian Hill. All 3 of those guys are gone. Mike Davis was the guy they signed in his place, obviously new coaching regime. So he's going to get a crack at it. And I think he's a guy that he will give you value in the early part of the season. Hopefully he can stay healthy. He's never had a huge carry workload in his career. If you look at his game log, so that could be a positive and a negative. And the other guy I'll mention is a guy that I think people are down on because of reports, and that's DeAndre Swift. And I would monitor those reports very closely because remember, like, Dan Campbell's coming to Detroit. This team doesn't have many wide receivers. Jared Goff doesn't like to throw the ball down the field. And you have experience with people on this coaching staff now that, saw Alvin Kamara and what he did in New Orleans. So Swift and Austin Eckler as well, Anthony Lynn, you got that connection. So Swift could be a PPR monster. You just got to make sure he's healthy, but I would monitor those reports very closely because if he's not going to miss time in the regular season and it's just something that's kind of hampering him in camp and he keeps falling down and you can get him, closer to 20, I think that's a really great value for a guy that could put up like a kind of baby Kamara Eckler-like season. Even with Jamal Williams there, I think, people are overthinking Jamal Williams. But if Swift is healthy, year 2 for him, I think it'll be a big year. So those are the 3 guys that I am looking at: Carson, Davis, and potentially DeAndre Swift.